Who are some examples of some of the people that have come in that have not been doing good things, should we say? Not been doing good things. Well, there's a couple of instances that have come up in Wales recently. So the Voice of Wales guys reported a man from Swansea had been jailed. Again, a Swansea man, just a similar way that, Axel Rudacabana was a lovely Christian Welsh choir boy. Pleaded guilty to 3 counts of rape and other offences involving 4 female victims. 28-year-old Jamil Ahmed from Clydach raped one of the victims after making threats of violence should she not have complied with his wishes. Ahmed changed his plea for 1 count each of rape and controlling and coercive behaviour from not guilty to guilty in July. In total, he pleaded guilty to 3 counts of rape, 3 counts of controlling coercive behaviour, and 1 count of harassment, putting his victim in fear of violence. He's been sentenced to 20 years with an extension period of 8 years to run concurrently. Odds are he'll be out in, I don't know, probably a matter of months on good behaviour. But here is this lovely little Swansea gentleman, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't mean to be that guy that's like, oh, maybe there were signs. Maybe there were signs, you know? We're often told not to judge a book by its cover. But just in this instance, maybe there were a few signs. You know? Maybe the face tattoos and the wild hair were, you know, a reason for just stereotyping, should we say. But there's more about... Oh, shit, I didn't mean to close that tab. There's more about this South Wales Police UK. Let me just see if I can get more of information up about this case, about this gentleman. Yeah, Swansea rapist handed extended jail sentence after offences involving 4 women. Yeah, it's just everything that I said. Detective Constable Judith Williams said Jamil Ahmed filled his victims with terror through his violent outbursts and threats, which left them feeling like they had no option but to go along with his predatory demands. This was not something which happened on just one occasion. This was a prolonged pattern of behaviour. So it makes you wonder, not saying this, but why was he not, reprimanded or anything done after the first time? Why was this pattern allowed to play out? And that has played a huge part in achieving the extended sentence which he has been served today. We applaud the victims for their bravery in coming forward and hope that they can begin to move on with their lives now that Jamil Ahmed will no longer be a part of them till he's released on early good behaviour, probably. Okay. Why can't we just deport him? Why can't we just deport him? Doesn't belong here. This doesn't belong here. This doesn't belong here. Neither does this. We have another pesky Welshman peddling cocaine to kids in Port Talbot. This time, Vuzumudzi Tenga, 36, and he was caught just 3 months after moving to the UK from Africa. So that's where he came from. I just want to see if I can find any more information about this guy, but his mugshot is available. A mugshot is available online. Let me see if I can just find anything. Let me just see if I can find anything else. Here we go. So this is again from South Wales Police. Neath man jailed for involvement in the supply of cocaine. This is from the 9th of July. A man from Port Talbot has been jailed for his involvement in the supply of Class A drugs. 36-year-old Vuzumutsi Tenga from Neath, obviously he's not from Neath, was found during his arrest to be in possession of a mobile phone which was linked to a drugs line. Tenga pleaded guilty to being concerned in the supply of cocaine, has been sentenced to 28 months. 28 months. He'd be back out in half that probably, and he'd be back on the streets doing the same again. He'd be back on our streets doing the same again because there's no deterrent. There's no deterrent. Detective Sergeant Grant Phillips said about it, this is just the latest case to highlight the size the task force police have to stop the illegal drug trade blighting our communities. It's not doing a very good job. Vuzumutsi Tenga and his associates in the trade care nothing for the well-being of those who purchase their drugs. They only care about the financial bottom line. He can look forward to a term in prison now as a result of his illegal activities. Yeah, I was going to say all he has to do is do a little bit of good behaviour. He'll be out in no time and be back doing the same again. So they said they don't care. These people coming here, in many instances, they don't care. Here is this gentleman for you. So this is the guy that was peddling or linked to people that were trying to peddle cocaine on the streets of Port Talbot. Disgusting people have no business being in our country and anywhere near our people. But this is all Nation of Sanctuary, right? This has Nation of Sanctuary written all over it. This also has Nation of Sanctuary written all over it. So Newport, another multicultural dystopian paradise, right? As part of the Nation of Sanctuary, thanks to Welsh Labour and their helpers at Plaid Cymru, 2 men were arrested and 4 people taken to hospital after the scenes, which I'll show you in a moment, outside of a foreign kebab takeaway. These scenes have shocked the community. Video posted on social media appears to show people with large swords or knives fighting in the street outside a kebab shop. Here's the video coming to you now, ladies and gentlemen. Very reminiscent of what we saw in a small town known as Blackwood a couple of months ago. I believe it was in February, where you had enclaves of, I believe it was those of Turkish descent, or at least they were running like a Turkish barbers, like a rival Turkish barbers, right? I think it was. And probably, again, not to put any false allegations out there or anything like that, but when you look at how they openly say that barbers, other shops that these people run, they are fronts for drugs a lot of the time, that was probably drug related. And one of the biggest things that's causing gang violence and stuff like that, one of the biggest things that causes gang violence anywhere across the world, period, is drugs and the money that people get from drugs, because obviously it's a very, very lucrative business. But here, this is from Newport, another Nation of Sanctuary, multicultural, diverse paradise. So for those of you who are listening, not watching, you can clearly see outside the Antalya establishment, there are groups of men. There are groups of men with weapons in their hands, what appears to be some kind of, if I bring this back, appears to be some kind of either baton or bat or knife, machete, something, right? Something long and cylindrical. It might be a metal pipe. Yeah, they look more cylindrical and blunt more than anything. You go back. You go back a generation or two. This would have been absolutely unheard of. This would have been absolutely unheard of on our streets. You know, say 2 generations ago or a generation ago. So what changed? What changed? More of these people, for one. Weak policies and weak governance, for 2. And as I mentioned before, the government deciding it wanted to declare war on its own people and deciding that the people needed to get a nose full of diversity. That's what changed. That's what changed. A deliberate upending of our culture, despite what people say, even some people in my comment section on YouTube, for example, in many instances, and I'm not talking about Wales specifically, I'm talking about, you know, Britain as a whole now, drastically changed the world for the better. You only need to look at the people who abolished the slave trade all throughout the world, or at least a lot of it, all throughout their empire. They abolished it to great manpower cost and to great fiscal cost that we only finished off paying about a decade ago, right? To free African slaves and abolish it all throughout the empire, that culture had to be upended. Good cultures, which were strong and prosperous, had to be upended. Only that, they had to convince us to think that it was a good thing that they were upended, because actually the good is evil and the evil is good. Woe to those who call good evil and evil good. Woe to those who call this good and importing more of this good. You won't be calling it good when it personally affects you. I hope that it doesn't. That's why I say the things that I do.